to talk about feminist flow. One of his little buddies from his stream sent out 2 tweets threatening my kids. One, that they were going to go find my kids at school.
Yeah.
And the other tweet was that they were going to gut them and hang them by their own intestines. They went on a rant for
about 3
God
hours.
knows how long.
About 3 hours.
That I was lying about those tweets. Okay. Apparently I concocted those tweets. I made them up, that everything I did was a lie. And this was hilarious to them.
Yeah.
They thought this was fucking hilarious.
It was very funny.
And they thought it was hilarious when Bering went on the stream. Thank you, Bering.
Thank you.
Bering, you're fucking awesome. If I could give you a bear hug, I would. So what did Bering do? Bering's smart. Bering actually went to check if these tweets were real. And oh my God,
they were real.
They were real. And so everybody starts backpedaling. And
That's
Bering like just pwned their asses. I'm sorry, Bering was fucking awesome. And that's why I think Bering is awesome. Hey everybody. So the first thing I want to address is this issue with Bering and how he quote unquote trolled Steve Shives. What he did, if you don't know already, is he pretended to be a victim of a horrible assault. And in the message that he sent to Steve, he had the phrase chicks with dicks in there because he thought it would be funny, ho, 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 to get Steve to say chicks with dicks. And so, yeah, he thinks this is hilarious. He thinks that trolling Steve by pretending to be the victim of a horrible assault is fucking hilarious. And I guess it is if you're like 5. This is, you know, as funny as maybe a fart joke if you're 5 years old. But to those of us who are adults, yeah, not funny at all to pretend you're the fucking victim of a horrible assault and then prey on the well-meaning and good intentions of someone who in this case is Steve Shives. You're a piece of shit. You really are. And you only did this to get, what, lulz? To get your little fanboys to think you were cool? Oh, hooray for you, Bering. A bunch of snotty-nosed little 5-year-olds think that you are awesome. Woo fucking who.
Okay, Wooly. The trans person was made up, 100% fiction. That story that Steve fell for didn't hurt anyone, just like this scene from Boys Don't Cry starring Hilary Swank. Getting Steve to say I love me some chicks with dicks was fucking funny.
I love me some chicks with dicks. Chicks with dicks. Dicks. Chicks with dicks.
Chicks with what?
Dicks.
I didn't prey on Steve's good intentions. I sought to expose the absolute hatred and loathing he unreasonably holds towards people like me. You see, a week before all this went down, Steve spent a couple of hours on a live stream doing his best to convince the world that it's okay to physically assault Nazis, and that people who hold opposing political views to him, people like me, are in fact Nazis.
I think a lot of people on what I guess we could call the other side of this, the sort of anti-feminist, anti-social justice, pro-Nazi, which I think we have to say now, pro-Nazi side, or at least a Nazi water-carrying, Nazi apologist side.
There's a link in the description to a response I did to Kizium Fowler, where I document all of this in detail. Go and watch it. So while it was kind of funny that Steve applied his listen and believe policy to what was obviously a ridiculous trolling attempt by me, the lols were just a byproduct. The real intention was to see if Steve was so entrenched in his hateful ideology that he'd grab anything he could to push his narrative. And Steve fell for it, hook, line and sinker. Now, Wooly, surely even someone as simple as you can understand that making your best effort to demonise and arguably incite actual violence against your opposition is far, far worse than producing a fictional story about a trans person being abused. A fictional story that caused no more harm than the scene we just saw from Boys Don't Cry. Oh, and fart jokes are fucking hilarious, you sour-faced prude of a woman. Now there's a fair contrast between the bearing is fucking awesome Wooly we heard at the start of the video and the bearing is a piece of shit Wooly we just heard. You might be thinking, gee, these two must have had some big falling out to cause that shift in opinion. But between bearing is fucking awesome and bearing is a piece of shit, we didn't really communicate at all. So what caused Wooly's opinion to shift so drastically? Surely it couldn't have just been trolling Steve Shives. Well, Wooly became fairly hostile towards me back in December, when I had that copyright dispute with Fresh TV.
He did steal someone else's artwork. You stole someone's artwork. That's really low. And so now it's coming to bite you in the ass. If you steal something, you deserve the consequences. Stole someone's artwork. Stealing someone's fucking artwork. Stealing, theft. I'm sorry, this is outright theft of someone's property. You stole shit. You brought it on yourself.
You're as dumb as dog shit, Wooly. Theft is the act of taking or keeping somebody's property, thereby depriving that person of that property or its use. Copyright infringement is the use of works protected by copyright law without permission. Theft and copyright infringement are not the same thing, Wooly. That's why one part of the law deals with theft, while another part of the law deals with copyright infringement. You see, the key difference is copyright infringement does not deprive the copyright owner of their intellectual property. Theft does deprive the owner of their property. So your continual claims that I'm somehow guilty of theft are completely baseless and quite frankly libelous. Now when Fresh TV brought a copyright complaint to me back in December, we sat down and came to a mutually acceptable resolution. So there was a complaint made by one party to another, both parties worked through that complaint to find a remedy, and now there's no complaint. Both parties are happy. In any case, I find it incredibly hypocritical that you think you have the moral authority to accuse anyone of theft considering your shady past. Back in 2013, the Woolly Bumblebee announced that she would oversee the establishment of a men's shelter named in honour of a well-known men's rights activist, Earl Silverman, who had recently died. Over the next few months, she collected almost $6,000 in donations for what she called the Earl Silverman Centre for Men. Now, I've left links in the description to several articles about what happened next, but basically the centre was never established and the people who donated money never saw their money back. The author of one of the articles I've linked is a guy by the name of Dean Esme. Dean donated $500 to the Earl Silverman Centre himself. Now, I happened to be speaking with Dean a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him whatever happened to the Woolly Bumblebee Centre for Men, and more to the point, whatever happened to his donation. His response? None of us ever saw our money again. So Wooly, if you go back to those definitions we looked at before, theft is the act of taking or keeping somebody's property, thereby depriving that person of that property or its use.
You stupid cunt!